Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Devin Adams. I'm a Fortinet instructor here in Tempe, Arizona for Dynamic Worldwide. And yeah, I do these videos for my students and I am like months behind. So I did change the title from the last video. So exploring FortiGate 6.2 demos roundup. I couldn't think of something to say, but I have like a laundry list of things I need to demo and try out. So in the last video, pretty basic, right? Even though it was kind of sloppy all over the place. But we downloaded and imported the newest version of FortiOS into GNS3, and we did it for FortiAnalyzer, FortiManager, and the FortiGate. In this video, I'll try to keep these things shorter for you guys. Sorry about that. We're just going to build a basic configuration with a couple of connections to kind of have like an SD-WAN going on, because a lot of the questions that I have for my demos has to do with the SD-WAN. We'll go beyond that and I'll throw in other things, but let's at least clean up shop here and get some basic internet connectivity. We're gonna start from there, okay? Um, and then our overall goal, is for me to just tackle some different demos, and I'll make sure to state those very specifically before the video, which ones I'm demoing here. So for right now, though, I'm just going to do some cosmetics here. That doesn't need to say for the manager with the version numbers. So I'm just going to say HQ for headquarters, Florida Manager, and I'm not doing anything with the Florida Manager anytime soon. So to conserve resources in my environment, I'm just going to shut it off. So here's a public service announcement, guys. Always gracefully shut down your Florida Manager because of all the databases that are involved in the appliance. You don't want to corrupt the bad boy. So we'll do an execute shut and we'll gracefully put it to sleep. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of move this guy off to the side. So this FortiGate right here, though, is going to be our main FortiGate. So I'm going to go ahead and rename it there. And by the way, I build these things from scratch and record them, not to increase the number of videos I have, but it's because I don't share the configs, and I want to make sure that everyone else can rebuild these from scratch with me. So I know it's a little bit redundant. I've done a lot of these videos before, but basically this is a FortiGate out of the box that has no configuration on it other than just the standard configuration. So, oh, excuse me, guys. So let's go ahead and get at least internet access going out there to several different pseudo WAN connections, right? So for starters, I'm going to pop open my devices here in GNS3, okay? And I always begin with this NAT cloud. I have quite a few appliances, so I'm just going to type up my filter here. So NAT, there we go. This is a single interface, and you want to make sure it's running on the GNS VM. All right. This right here is a single interface that literally NATs the host machine that's running its internet connection, so you can actually get out to the real internet. So, sure, I'm going to call this internet just to make it a little more appealing than just NAT. Okay. So, and the nice thing about it being NATed too is that it stays isolated within GNS3 except for if it crosses that interface. So now we're going to want a bunch of imaginary public IP addresses to practice our site-to-site VPN tunnels or routing and things like that. And we don't want to use a real public IP address. I mean, technically we could, but you know what? Not so much. So I have had several videos on how to build routers in here. GNS3 is obviously a Dynip Cisco emulator also. So if you do have the Cisco stuff in here, you can also throw it in there. It's all up to you. I'm just using the open source ones. And the one that I like personally, just probably because I've been using it for so long, is I already made a pfSense router. So, and I added like 10 interfaces to it, and they all begin with 10200. So, in my labs going forward, if you guys see an IP address of 10200, we're going to make believe that it's a public IP address. So, but this thing is going to act like a WAN router. And I do have videos on how to configure it. So just go back through my playlists and it should be in there somewhere. So, um, and I actually renamed it too to WAN so I wouldn't have to do the hard work all over again. So there we go. So that's really a pfSense box. and I'll just hit the configuration here so you guys can see it. I gave it a couple gigs of RAM, all right, and also 10 network adapters that are pre-configured with 10.100 for all the interfaces except for the very first interface, which is the DHCP interface. That, guess where that goes? Yeah, get my cabling tool right into the real internet. All right, so that way, and we don't need to call it WAN 1. All right, that way it can actually NAT out to the real internet and give us real internet connectivity within our environment, which is kind of slick, which is kind of nice. So let's go ahead and boot that up, and that'll take a while to post. All right. Now, if you can imagine here, we have 9 interfaces to play with, okay? And each one's going to have like a 10.200, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going all the way up. All right. Now, this headquarters here is going to have that internet connection, okay? But we're actually going to put a box right in the middle here, and it is called, and you can download this for free in GNS3. You just got to go through the steps when you do the installation, but it's called NetTerm. Let me find it real quick. All right, so this little NetTerm box here actually has just 2 interfaces, one in, one out, all right? And it is running a form of Tiny Linux, okay? But what's nice about it is that you can throttle bandwidth, or you can add latency, jitter, and packet loss. So if we do ever have any SD-WAN that we want to test out rules and make sure that we're monitoring correctly, it makes it really easy, all right? So, and I'm a big stickler on making my icons look practical here. So I'm going to change the symbol just to like a, I don't know, just kind of like a router or something like that. Why not? So there we go. And then I'm actually going to give it the IP address range of what's it's going to be connected to. All right. So I can remember when I plug these bad boys in. Now I usually reserve that for switches, but I think it'll make sense here. So we'll just plug in port 1 to one side of it, and then to my first interface there. And yes, you do actually have to turn these on. So let's turn it on. All right. But remember, that's just going to pass it through. Okay. So, um, all right, let's take a look at how this is booting up. Oh, see how it's still going. So that's fine. But in the meantime, we can at least put IP addresses here. All right. So let's go ahead and double click into our FortiGate, and we gave it a password. Anyways, don't tell anyone. But we're going to configure that first interface. So config sys interface, edit port 1, and we'll do a show here. And it is actually listening for DHCP. Now, we don't want it to have DHCP, all right? Instead, we are going to want it to be static. Now, you know what? Technically speaking, I don't even need to do this because I can do it once I have my management interface down here, but I'm just going to show you guys just for giggles on how to get that up and running. All right, so we'll just do a set mode to static. That way it'll allow us to put an IP address, then set IP to 10.200.1.1 with the /24. And as you guys can see here, this is the administration access. All right, just for the sake of this lab, I'm going to leave it. But here it's saying you can ping it, you can access the web configuration portal, you can secure shell into it, and also a FortiManager can communicate with it. All right, so there you go. And then if we do a config system, actually it's config router static, okay, we can configure a default gateway for this bad boy. All right, so we'll do an edit 1. So we're making a new static route, and we're going to say set device to port 1. All right, set our destination as the quad 0. Okay, so when it doesn't know where to go, and then we'll set the gateway as 10.200.1.254. And the reason why I know that's the right IP address as well because I configured the box. Okay, so there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here on how our pfSense is doing. All right, so it is up, and as you can see, our first interface here does have that 254. So technically speaking, I should be able to ping that IP address. So let's check it out. Let's try it out. Okay, so let me go back. I'll just do an execute ping 10.200.1.254, and there it is. That's the pfSense box. It's acting like our pseudo WAN router. So, and then just to be really daring here, let's do an execute ping google.com. And as you can see, we're actually hitting the internet. Now, we're a couple of layers deep here, all right? Meaning like we're within like several nested environments, so that's why it looks so bad. But we still have connectivity. So, all right. So now let's go ahead and take care of the WAN side right down here. Okay, so and to do that, my favorite appliance to use is actually the WebTerm box. So this is just a tiny Linux kernel, and if you go ahead and install the appliance, it will walk you through downloading all of them. And this is what I use kind of as my get to low footprint, doesn't take up much resources, enough to get to the GUI kind of situation. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this something like a PC1 or something silly like that. And then I'm going to go over here to configure. And then I'm going to go to my network configuration. Okay. And we're going to do a static IP address. All right. So let's just do that real quickly. Take out the hashes here. And I'm going to have that as an IP address of 10.1.1.10. All right. So this top network is going to be 10.1.1, and then this one's going to be obviously 10. Okay. And then the FortiGate, I haven't done it yet, but that's going to have an IP address of 10.1.1.254, and we'll just give it Google's DNS. Thanks, Google. So it can reach out there to the interwebs. All right. So we're going to hit save. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and, you know what? I know it's so silly, but I gotta change that icon. So here we go, change symbol, and we'll just give it a desktop PC, okay? So, but here's the thing though, we don't want our management to plug right into the FortiGates, okay? So it's gonna be on a management subnet. So we're gonna go ahead and get a switch. So here's the switch icon in GNS3. And then here's the built-in Ethernet switch, and it doesn't do a bad job. Now, if you ever have like several machines going and there's a lot of traffic, maybe it's just me, but I've noticed these little switches can't keep up, and that's why I'll do something like an open V switch, and that can handle it a little bit better. So, but here's just going to be a couple of machines. So I'm just going to create a switch. And then, just for the sake of keeping things neat, I'll label it the subnet that it is, even though technically I don't have to. Okay, and that's going to kind of be my management. Okay, and that way I can plug in several devices here. So we'll go ahead and say port 5, which will leave us 3 additional ones for the SD-WAN. Okay, and I'll plug this in here. I'll plug this in here. All right, there we go. All right, looks okay. And even though we're not using it, just for fun, all right, we'll turn that bad boy on later, okay? And now we'll turn on the PC and let it boot, okay? So, but nothing is configured on that port 5 yet. So at least let's get it some access, okay? So here we go. We're gonna do a config system interface. We'll edit port 5, okay? If we do a show here, there's nothing going on. So we'll set an IP address of 10.1.1.254 with the /24 and set and allow access to HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, and ping. All right. And for giggles, I guess we'll do the FortiGate FortiManager protocol for later. Now, the only reason why I'm leaving HTTP on there instead of HTTPS is because this is still rocking a free license, and that's the only way you can access the free VMs. Okay, the HTTPS will come later on when we license it. And I will license the later demos because of the amount that we have to do. So there you go. And then we'll do an end. All right. And we can test that connectivity by pinging the machine that we just turned on. And there you go. There is PC1 nice and alive and talking to us. Okay. But more importantly is when we go to PC1, all right, as you can see here, it's running Tiny Linux, and it's just enough for us to get a graphical user interface. And now we can put in the IP address of the FortiGate, which is 10.1.1.254. There's the login screen. It's admin, and then the password that it forced us to change when we first logged in. Okay. Oh, look at that. That is hilarious. There's now a setup. Sure. All right. HQ FortiGates. Well, that's different. That wasn't in 620. But as you can see here, we at least now have our GUI. Okay, so once again, looks like we can use more RAM with the free VMs. Obviously, these aren't going to be licensed, and if we hover over here, you'll see that we have our 15 days to play with it. All right, so you know what? I just realized we're running a little bit long. Okay, I swear I've recorded like 1,000 of these identical videos, so I'm sorry guys for the redundancy. But if you notice, we are actually on the latest build, which is sweet. Okay, but let's go ahead and at least get basic internet connectivity here. All right, so first and foremost, don't be that person. Always name your interfaces. Okay, so as you can see here, port 1. Okay, I'm going to turn off the admin access except for ping. All right. And then I'm also going to give it the alias of Cox, which is my internet service provider. Okay. I'm just a big fan of using whatever provider it is, just so it makes configuration a little bit easier when I'm reading it. So this is admin access. Now, do I want DHCP turned on? Probably not if it's my WAN interface, okay? And this is what we did in the CLI, so that's why there's an IP address there. All right, and I probably don't need device detection, which tells me what kind of device is hanging out on the other side. Let's hit OK. And then in port 5, I'm just gonna say something like uh, management or something like that. I'll abbreviate it. Okay. And this one, of course, I'm fine with this kind of access, okay? But I am going to turn on a DHCP server, so it's going to make adding devices here a whole heck of a lot easier. Now, I don't want my range to overlap, and I'm not going to have that many devices, so I'll just say 20, and we'll begin at like something like 15, all right? So, and then same as the system's DNS now, we can just use Google's. That's fine. Look at that. Lease time is now in there. Used to have to add that as an option. And look at that. What is this? Oh, there's so much new to explore, guys. Anyways, okay. And by the way, obviously I did a range outside of my PC that I did PC1 with, just so it didn't overlap. And I will turn on device identification detection. I have not heard of anyone complaining about that performance-wise, and it will add a whole lot level of detail to our logs, to our FortiView, and all that jazz. All right, so but that looks good. Cool. You are currently connected to this interface. Well, that's nice that they warn us now. Okay. So there we go. Now we already have the default route in there, but let's go ahead and check it, because before we can leave, the FortiGate needs to know where to go. Okay. And of course it's a firewall, so nothing happens without a firewall policy. So let's just do a basic firewall policy for internet connectivity. So we'll say something like internet access, and our incoming is our management, our outgoing is Cox1. Okay, our source. Now we could do an all, but that's not best practice. So I'm going to say add. and I'm going to actually add that subnet. All right, I'll call it management. Okay, I'll turn it to like green or something like that. And then 10.1.1.0/24. Okay. Bind to any interface, I'll leave it to any, and if I want to use that later on in my static routes, that will make it selectable. Okay, so there we go. And then destination, the internet is a pretty big place. And because we're management, because we're IT, I don't really care about where we're going out to. Are we going to need NAT? Oh, I kind of screwed that up. Sorry, guys. Just want to make sure that it is natted, all right, because it is going out to the internet, and we're not going to worry about logging right now, okay? Believe it or not, that should be it to get us basic internet connectivity, and we can just kind of hit refresh here to see, yeah, we actually have connectivity out through the real internet. So I'll just prove it here by going to Google. Yep. How to connect to my FortiGate. Yay! Anyways, all right, guys. So as you can see, it's up and running. Um, some other basic maintenance things here. Gosh, is it really 20 minutes? These videos fly by so fast. So I'm just going to take a moment to go to my system. I'm going to go to my settings, okay? And I'm just going to make sure like I'm in the right time zone. I'm in Arizona, all right? And what else here? My idle timeout. Now, normally you might want to kick that up a little bit longer so you don't get kicked out while you're just like staring at it. But here I'm actually going to do it for the maximum of 480 minutes. I know that seems like a lot, but in a lab environment, you don't want to constantly be going in and out. So, all right, there we go. Green sounds good. Yeah, we'll leave it green. Anyways, all right, cool. Okay, you know what? This has gone on a little bit longer than I wanted to. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and we'll add more circuits and we'll get the SD-WAN up and running. So sounds good, guys. Anyways, all right. So there you go. I'll see you guys soon.